Hello, everybody. So we're on to day 3 already. I'm not sure where this time's going, but hopefully you found the last 2 days interesting and a little bit helpful, or food for thought, something to hold on to for the future, but useful in some way anyway. So today we're looking at P for periods, and I think this is probably one of the most annoying parts of the menopause, perimenopause, menopause, because you actually don't know when you're having a period or when you're not having a period at times. This only applies to some of us, of course. I've got friends who've gone through the menopause, peri and the main menopause, being as regular as clockwork, having a few of the symptoms and stopping their periods. Whereas I've had others that have thought they've finished the periods, no perimenopause at all particularly, and then all of a sudden they start again, which of course is perimenopause, but they thought they'd skipped it. So everybody's a little bit different. Your periods might be intermittent, they might stop, they might be heavier for a while, they might be lighter for a while, they might be a combination of all of these things. Stop, start, I think can be the most annoying thing to happen. It's quite difficult to know how to manage this. Of course, you don't want to be caught short. So for a little while, my personal recommendation, I actually wore a tenner ladies for a little while, just so that I avoided any embarrassment. And I was lucky, I was fairly regular leading up to the time that I entered the menopause. So I tended to, when I was doing exercise or going swimming, as you know is very often for me, I tended to use a tampon just in case. Now, I carried on doing that for quite some time, and in the end I thought, hang on a minute, this is silly. They have finished. They've gone. And the way I managed things during that period, the sort of stop-starty period, if you like, was to try and deal, first of all, with the unpredictability of it. I did use some aromatherapy remedies, which I'll touch on in a moment. I did train as an aromatherapist many years ago. I don't practice anymore because there's plenty of other people that do that. So the first thing I did, as it won't surprise you, was I actually changed my mindset. I thought, okay, this is happening. I wasn't expecting it quite so early on, but it is happening. And of course, when I was that sort of age, I didn't talk to my mum. I'm not sure if you do, but I didn't talk to my mum. It just wasn't something that we did. And I did think that I was the only one to be starting this sort of period of my life, excuse the pun, at the age of 40. So I didn't tend to speak to friends. Of course, it did become apparent that some of the people were in the same situation as me, but I did change my mindset. I thought, right, okay, I am going through this, and let's look at ways to cope with it. Avoid embarrassment. Perhaps if I was going to get hot sweats, which of course I did have in the first instance, that's what first alerted me to the fact that this blessed stage of my life was upon me. So I thought, right, let's draw on my resources from the past and see if I can manage some of these things. So my mindset was the first thing. I'm going to manage this. I was adamant I didn't want to particularly use HRT, but did succumb in the end, mainly because of my sternum. I needed to repair my sternum, so I needed my breathing and my palpitations to settle. And of course, this is what causes the sweating. When you get anxious and that sort of thing, it can cause you to sweat anyway. But as we age, our blood vessels become a little bit more constricted and dilate, which increases the blood flow, which increases our temperature. So again, a very biological reason. And the way I dealt with that was to turn to my aromatherapy expertise from days gone by. And I used a combination of aromatherapy oils in different quantities at different times. So things like clary sage, bergamot, sage, rose. Rose is a lovely one because that encourages self-love as well. So if you're feeling a bit down, rose is lovely. Coriander and bergamot, all really nice. And patchouli and black pepper to help with circulation. So different sorts of combinations. There's all sorts of recipes available all over the place. If you want some, please let me know. I'll pop 2 or 3 in this group so that you can look at them. And do please source yourself, as with everything, a really good brand. So one that is well known. Might be a little bit more expensive, but trust me, they are well worth the purchase. They'll last longer, keep them out of the sun, should always be in glass, dark bottle. Please, please, please avoid plastic because of all the salicylates that might transfer into the oils. So you don't want those going into your body to add to things. So there's some of the things I used, and I blended them differently to use as a rub, differently again to put into my bath water. And that's another thing while I think about it, to help with the regulation of both your temperature and your hormones. Keep your baths quite cool. You don't want them to be, when you put your foot in and you think a little bit more cold water, or I'll coat. Well, don't do that. Make sure it's not that too hot, although you might be tempted to for the aches and pains, but it's better to have it a little bit cooler. Okay, again, your emotions could be all over the place, as your periods are all over the place. And one of the things you could be concerned about is obviously contraception, which can become much more unreliable during this time of your life. Again, I say I am not a doctor, so please consult your doctor or your contraceptive nurse on this subject, but don't avoid it. Do take responsibility for that. The other thing, of course, are painful, possibly, sexual intercourse on this. As your periods stop and your blood vessels dilate, so there's less lubricant. And again, there are natural remedies for this. And again, aromatherapy, do be careful. Don't just make it up on your own, because a lot of aromatherapy oils you don't put into open recesses and you don't use on their own without a carrier oil and things like that. So beware of that. Also, if you're using a condom, you don't want aromatherapy oil anywhere near it. And I do say this with some sort of background. I was a sexual health worker in the 80s and 90s. So I was trained to look at the different forms of contraception, to give advice and support, not to prescribe. So again, I'll say consult the expert. But and then, of course, there's the over-the-counter. Go and speak to your pharmacist, find one that will suit you. But there are a number of lubricants that can help. And even sometimes as you're inserting a tampon, as things become less frequent, that can be a little bit uncomfortable. So you might want to use a lubricant at that sort of time. Okay, so I think that's covered the sort of period side of things, the P period. But of course, there's always the other things that we've already looked at in our menopausal sheet. So it's about remembering to do these things. Get yourself prepared, write a list if you need to. try and sort your mindset out and calm your emotions. And I'm going to go on to the emotions again in a moment for you. Before we do that, let's just think of some of the other things that might be happening as our periods alter and change, apart from the obvious, our estrogen reducing. So things like water retention. Again, this is something that can be a problem for some people. It was certainly a problem for me because I've got lipedema. So that was a blooming nuisance on top of the lipedema. But again, I turned to the alternatives, if you like, or the complementary, as they're called now. So I went down the route again. I used things such as fennel, juniper, lemon, black pepper, and I used the aromatherapy oils, but I also use quite a lot of that in my cooking. And it doesn't do anyone else any harm, obviously, unless they've got an underlying medical condition. So do check that first before you feed everybody things with that in, if they've got a medical condition. But those oils and those herbs are really good. There again, you might like to consult a medical herbalist. And we've got one in the Bude area, Linda Moran. She is a doctor of herbalism, so that's worth a contact. There are always people who are well up on the latest in the health food shops that will advise and support and help, and always willing to give you that advice for free. Okay, they might want to be selling you something as well, but you can get that advice for free, and they often have free leaflets. They also sometimes have free advice clinics. So check these things out. Well worth a look at. Now, in 1986, there was quite a bit of research done around pelvic pain. And this was linked to different stages within perimenopause, menopause. And it was only then that the link was recognised. Now, again, one of the best things you can do for this type of pain, if you want to go down the complementary route, which is all I'm advising on, and I say again, I'm not a doctor. So the complementary remedy that I used, because I did have quite a lot of pelvic pain at one time, not for long, lasted perhaps 2 or 3 months, and it was during intercourse. So I used the geranium, black pepper and ginger mix, and I massaged around the pelvic area on a regular basis, so each morning. And eventually I played around with all the mixes of aromatherapy oils and got one spot on. Once I did that, I booked myself in for a regular massage with an experienced, well-qualified aromatherapy masseur therapist. Okay, not just a normal masseur. It was a qualified aromatherapist, and she made a huge difference for me. Now, you might find there are some people locally to you who are training and want some bodies. In the end of their training, most aromatherapists will be required to do at least 30 case studies over a period of a year in order to receive their qualification. Sometimes it's shorter if they're doing a full-time course, sometimes longer if they're doing it very part-time. So it's worth looking to see if there are any of those people around, because of course they won't charge you as much. Okay, and there might be some people, me included, that would be willing to give you some help as well. So that's why I'm doing this. I want to be able to help people. Okay, I'm going to consult my list, which I've got here. Okay, yeah. So the other one, try not to worry. Try to manage the changes as well as you can. So the next thing I'd like to do is to just give you a little sequence on emotional freedom technique. Now, I've popped a bit in my private Facebook group about this today, but I thought I would give you a little demonstration and then you can perhaps follow along. So the emotional freedom technique is an ancient technique, really, now, because it dates back to I think it's the late 50s originally, but then there was somebody called Dr. Gary Craig who used it with trauma victims following the war in America, Vietnamese War, I think it was. And he added a few tapping points and took some other points away. So basically, there's a series of points. So there's the head point, just above the eyebrow, towards the middle, under the eye in the centre, here, above the lip, the chin, on your bra strap, either side, doesn't matter, under your arm on your bra strap, again, it doesn't matter, the inside of your thumb, forefinger, middle, ring, baby, and then this is called the gamut area. So you rub it all in and make sure that it's gone in. So a quick sequence would be something like this. I'll just do the one so that you can see what I mean. So you start off by setting your intention. So you're karate chopping on your hand. Again, doesn't matter which one. So we need a setup phrase. So even though I have entered this stage in my life and I feel a little bit uncertain or a little bit worried, I totally and completely love and accept myself. And we say that 3 times. And once you've said it 3 times, you can rub the back of your hand. Now, what words you put in there, even though I've entered this stage and I feel, you enter the words that you feel. So you can put anything in there, in pain, annoyed, frustrated, whatever you feel, but it's an emotion. Okay, so put that in there. Once you've done here on the back of your hand, deep breath in, out through your mouth, 3 times. So then we go around, and I'm going to use the phrase that I used. This feeling of worry, concern, uncertainty. Feeling worried, uncertain, concerned. And you might not tap in different things here. Worried about contraception. So as you go through, you might think of different things. Concerned that I won't be able to exercise without embarrassment. And perhaps another one, worried that my husband won't like the way I'm changing. Worried that I won't be able to have the children that I wanted. Anything that you want to insert here that you feel might be affected, you can put in. And then we go with what you started with, this feeling of uncertainty, this worry, this stage of my life, menopause, perimenopause, deep breath. Now, as you go through, these tapping points tap into the meridians along your body and jar your nerves to alert your brain to receive these messages. As your brain receives the messages, the emotions become less and less and less. And the more you practice this, the more effective it will be. And again, I'll say to you, if you need any further support, please, you know where I am. There are books, lots of books. So I haven't got the Gary Craig book with me at the moment because I loaned that to someone. But this is quite a nice one, the Dawson Church. That's got all sorts in there. And you can see here, this is the one for PTSD, which I've had great success with some soldiers and some first responders after COVID. So I used a lot of PTSD then. And a lot of EFT for PTSD. And I bought this book online so that I could loan it to them. Another one that you might prefer, a bit less in your face. This one, EFT in your pocket. And it's a nice little book, but you will have to insert your own emotions for it to be most effective. On the subject of books, there is a super fragrant pharmacy book, got all sorts in there, really, really good. And Shirley Price also has some really good aromatherapy books. So you've got a bit of herbalism there, a bit of EFT and a bit of aromatherapy advice and some tips. And I hope that they have all been helpful for you. As always, you know where I am. You only have to ask if you need a bit more advice or support. Thanks ever so much for watching. Bye-bye now.